Okay, this is Advanced Math 6.2. It's Advanced Math, Unit 6, Lesson 2. And the title is Angle Addition Laws Continued. So, what I'm going to have you do is, without looking back at the previous lesson, write down what sine of a plus b is. Just a plus b, no minus. And then write down what cosine of a plus b is. Same thing, no minus. And then tangent. And do the best you can to do these without looking back at your previous lesson. And I cannot hit pause while I'm recording, so I'm just going to cover while I write it down. So just that's why the screen is blank. Just know I'm writing it down, and then we're going to compare. All right, are we ready? Okay, is that what you guys ended up with? Yes? Okay, how many of you, ignoring the tangent, got 100% on your sine and cosine formula? All right, so just learned it today and already have it down. That's awesome. Anybody got all three of them, including the tangent? Good job. If not, work, practice. We have a little bit of time before we take our test. Our test will be taken the week we come back from break, not that Friday, but that next Monday. I'll show you a calendar. We'll get our calendar on Friday. Okay, questions. All right, I'm going to, with a different color pen, I'm going to put in what happens if it's a minus sign. If it's a minus sign, this here, that minus over here would be a minus. For cosine, the minus sign would be a what? This over here would be a plus. Do you guys agree? Is that a yes? Okay. I'm going to move this addition sign up just a smidge. And when it's subtraction, it's minus in the numerator, but addition in the denominator. Now, when it comes time to write your formulas down on your unit circle sheet before the test, it is up to you on whether you want to write it down like this, where it's 3 formulas and you just have your signs worked in, or you write it down like this, where it looks like 6 formulas, but it's really just 3 with the minus, the a minus b worked in as well. It's up to you on which way you want to write it down. Got it? Okay. Number 1. Oh, I'm going to bubble this in. Okay. Number 1 is given sine of u equals 4/5 and u is an acute angle. We're also given that cosine of v, v is in Victor, cosine of v is negative 12 over 13. And v is in Q2, quadrant 2. Part A, find sine of u plus v. And I am going to move that up just a smidge so I have room. Find sine of u plus v. All right. Any suggestions? What can I do? What should I do? Yes. Good job. We will be using Pythagorean's theorem on these problems. Okay. First off, are these numbers on my unit circle? No. So, when they're not on the unit circle, what do we have to do? We have to draw our own pictures. Do you guys remember that? We've done that before. The first restriction for u is that u is an acute angle. What does it mean to be an acute angle? Yes. It's less than 90 degrees. What does that mean in this particular case on where I would draw it? Do you guys agree it's less than 90? Okay. Where would I draw that? In quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? Do you guys agree that's quadrant 1? It has to be. That's the only quadrant where the angles are less than 90. So I'm going to draw it here. This is going to be u. And you do have to have your SOHCAHTOA mastered. Sine is opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to write that as opposite over hypotenuse. 4 over 5. Opposite over hypotenuse. This is my A value. Now, how many of you know what A is without using Pythagorean's theorem? What is it? 3. Is this a 3, 4, 5? I'm going to show the work anyway, just in case. A squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. The leg squared plus the leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Subtract the 16. What's 25 minus 16? 9. And the square root of 9? 3. So here I have a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Now, for the next one, it's telling us to draw it in quadrant 2. And this is V, angle V. All right, now cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent here is 12, hypotenuse is 13. Which one gets the negative, the 12 or the 13? The 12, not because it's negative in the fraction, because that negative can go top or bottom, but it's on the 12 because the 12 is going in the negative direction and the hypotenuse is never negative. Make sense? All right, let's use our Pythagorean's theorem. A squared, I'm going to call my unknown leg here A. A squared plus negative 12 squared equals 13 squared. Go ahead and work that out. And have any of you subtracted yet? What's 169 minus 144? 25. Square root, what's the A value? 5. A value is 5. Did anybody have that one memorized? 5, 12, 13? Some of you did? Good. Okay, and is it positive 5 or negative 5 if it's going upward? Positive. Okay, now we have enough to find this because we have our sine formula. we're going to expand. What is sine? Friendly or snobby? Friendly. So sine of u is hanging out with cosine of v, and sine of v is hanging out with cosine of u, plus or minus? Plus, because it keeps the same sign. All right, sine of u, you're going to go to your u triangle, and sine is opposite over hypotenuse, 4/5. Cosine of v, go to your v triangle. Cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse. That's negative 12 over 13. Plus, right now I want you with your shoulder partner evaluating sine of v and cosine u using your triangle. All right, what did you guys get for sine of v? 5 over 13. And for cosine of u, 3 over 5. If you're not sure how we're getting these, guys, you do want to practice your SOHCAHTOA, opposite over adjacent, opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, and eventually opposite over adjacent when we have our tangent. Okay, what does that give me? Negative 48 over 65 plus 15 over 65. Did anybody get that far already on their own? Okay. Do you guys agree that's what that multiplies out to be? 4 times negative 12 and 5 times 13. 5 times 3 and 13 times 5. Combine the negative 48 plus 15. What do we get? Negative 33 over. Reduce if you can. Nothing reduces, so this is our answer. Questions before I move on to part B? Okay. Cosine of u minus v. All right, let's expand. Try to do it from memory without looking back at your notes. Cosine of u. Is cosine friendly or snobby? I only heard like 2 kids answer. What is it? Snobby. So it hangs out with only itself. Cosine u is hanging out with cosine v, which means sine of u is hanging out with sine of v. And minus or plus? Plus, because it's the opposite sign. All right, you go ahead and work it out using your unit circle, not your unit circle, your picture. We're still using the same picture here. I am going to cover and work it out. You're going to do the same. All right, check with your shoulder partner. And then check with mine. Are these the combination of fractions you have? And then you get negative 36 over 65 plus, what is that, 20 over 65? And what does that combine to be? Negative what? And that also does not reduce, so that's the final answer. Questions before I move on to part C? Making sense? Okay. Part C, tangent of u plus v. Now, in the textbook, they may not ask for these three specific ones. They may ask for sine of u minus v, and cosine of u plus v, and tangent of u minus v. It just depends on what they ask for. You know how to use your formulas. All right, I'm going to work this one out with you because it does come out a little differently. Cans? No? Are you here for cans?
Yeah.
No cans.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. So, tangent of u plus tangent of v all over 1 plus or minus? Minus the product. Tan u times tan v. Now what we have to do is go to our picture and find tangent of u and tangent of v. Those are the only two we have to find. What is tangent of u if it's opposite over adjacent? 4/3 plus tangent of v opposite over adjacent. Put the negative in the numerator. 5 over negative 12 becomes negative 5/12. And then 1 minus the product of tan u and tan v. So 4/3 times negative 5 over 12. All right, 4/3 minus 5 over 12 all over 1 plus or minus if I have a positive times a negative. That's going to become plus, and then 4 times 5 is 20 over 3 times 12 is 36. So I'm not done, but before I continue, any questions? Okay. Is this like the one I talked about earlier about having to clear your complex fraction? Yes, sometimes some of them, not all, but sometimes some of the tangent ones end up with complex fractions. In which case you multiply everything by the same thing, which is the common denominator. What is your common denominator? 36? Do you guys agree it's 36? Okay, here we're going to cross reduce. 3 goes into 36 how many times? So am I left with 12 or 12 times 4? So 48 minus 12 becomes 1 and 12 goes into 36 how many times? How many times? 3. Am I left with 3 or 5 times 3? Which is 15. Over 36 times 1, that's easy. That's just 36 plus 36 reduces completely, leaving what behind? Leaving 20 behind. Now it's just combining like terms. 48 minus 15 and 36 plus 20. So work that out now. 48 minus 15. What do you get for that one? 30 what? 33 over what? And does that reduce? It does not. That there is your final answer. We do have another problem. Any questions before I move on to the next one? Does anybody need that up a little bit more before I move on? Okay. Any questions on anything we've done here? Because you will have some of these on your assignment today. Okay, number 2. Okay, number 2 is a solve. And we're going to solve, but where 0 is less than or equal to x. 0 degrees is less than or equal to x, which is less than 360 degrees. We've done those before. And here we go. Here's how it's going to change for this unit. Sine of x plus pi over 4, parentheses, plus sine of x minus pi over 4, close parentheses, equals -1. All right. Can I combine these? Are these like terms? They both have a sign, they both have an x and a pi minus 4, but this is plus and this is minus. Are they like terms? No. I cannot combine. So the only thing I can do, and we're going to get more practice, the more you do, you'll be like, oh, I can handle that. The only thing I can do is expand. Take sine of a plus b and expand it. Is sine friendly or snobby? Friendly. So you're going to have sine of x hanging out with sine of pi over 4. And same sign or opposite sign? Same. Plus sine of pi over 4 hanging out with sine of x, cosine. And I did write that wrong. Sorry, guys. Cosine of x. Hopefully you wrote it correctly. If not, please fix it. We said it was friendly, but I wrote it as snobby. Sine of x, cosine of pi over 4, plus sine of pi over 4, cosine of x. All right, plus, because it is an addition, I don't need parentheses. If that were a minus sign, I'd put big parentheses here to distribute my negative. Technically, I should still put parentheses, but distributing a positive sign, is that going to change anything? No. Okay, I'm going to do this one in green, and I'm going to have you do the same thing. Expand your sign using your sign formula. Go ahead and do that now. All right, do you guys have this? And yes, and let's combine like terms. I have sine of x cosine pi over 4 and plus sine of x cosine pi over 4. They're both positive, they're both like terms. What do they add up to? 2 times? 2 times sine of x cosine of pi over 4. Okay, this is my next set. Sine of pi over 4 cosine x and negative sine of pi over 4 cosine x. They are like terms. One's positive, one's negative. What are these going to add up to? 0. Are they going to undo each other because they're opposites? Yes. So I'm left with just this equals -1. All right, you're taking the test, you get this far. Anybody think they know what to do next? Yes? Okay, how many of you would have thought of that eventually? He said divide both sides by 2. Anybody feel like, okay, I would have thought of that eventually? Or you had thought of it already, just maybe didn't speak up. Divide both sides by 2, thank you, Jared. So then you have sine of x cosine of pi over 4 equals -1/2. Now, this next step is kind of new to us in this particular concept, solving for these the way we are, but eventually it's going to become just like, okay, I know what to do next. Before I say it to you, does anybody know what to do next? Yes? Awesome, he is correct. Right here. Is cosine of pi over 4 something on our unit circle that we can evaluate? Yeah, pi over 4 is 45 degrees. So go to your unit circle, find pi over 4, the x value, because that's what cosine is. The only thing different I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the front because it's a number, a numerical value, and I like putting those as coefficients. What is cosine of pi over 4? 1 over root 2, and then I'm going to write sine x. Okay, so the only thing I did, again, I put it to a coefficient because it's a numerical value, and that's typically how I write coefficients. All right, earlier I divided by 2 to get rid of it. This time, what would I divide by? Good. I would divide by 1 over root 2, but dividing by a fraction is equivalent to multiplying by the reciprocal. So you could divide, I'm going to multiply. What would I multiply both sides by? Root 2. Sine of x equals negative root 2 over 2. They don't cross reduce because one's a radical, one is not. Now, at this point, you remember from Unit 3 and from your Math 3 teacher last year telling you to remember what root 2 over 2 is. Or you have it on your unit circle because that's the way you wrote it. For me, I don't have a root 2 over 2. So, does anybody just flat out remember what to change root 2 over 2 to? 1 over root 2. If you flat out remember, you don't have to show this next step. I'm just going to show you for those of you that have forgotten what to do. If you don't remember that it's 1 over root 2, you multiply top and bottom by root 2 to unrationalize, and that gives you negative 2, because root 2 times root 2 is 2. And then I have 2 root 2 at the bottom. And does that, as you guys said, become negative 1 over root 2? Okay, so if you remember that root 2 over 2 is 1 over root 2, do you have to do all this unrationalizing business? No, you do not. That's only there in case you forgot it. All right, now we're back to the last unit stuff, even back to unit like 3 and 4 stuff. Go to your unit circle, look for the 2 places where sine is negative. It's these 2 quadrants here. And find where your y value is negative 1 over root 2. There's 2 angles where your y value, because that's what sine is negative 1 over root 2. 200 and what? 225 and 315. Any questions? No questions? Okay, your assignment is 6.2, page 382, numbers 49 through 56, and 81 through 82. Any questions? Yes. What was the assignment for 6.1? Okay, I'll put it up for you in 1 second.